Slack is a common collaborative tool for developers. This video we will deploy a Slack app, which can programmatically read, process and reply messages. The infrastructure setup is on AWS using Lambda and SQS, and in the next video, we will extend this design to build OpenAI into Slack. For those who are more interested to see the demo, you may fast forward to this timestamp of the video. Now let's briefly go through the design first. We will need to create a Slack app. It will subscribe to Slack events, such as event of new messages appearing in channels. This Slack app also needs permissions to read, write, reply messages, which we will see later. When new messages arrives, a Slack event is delivered by our Slack app. We set up a Lambda function on AWS as receiver with a function URL. Slack event will reach the endpoint and trigger the receiver Lambda. This Lambda will write Slack event into an SQS queue. SQS serves as an intermediary, which decouples the post-processing logic of Slack event. We have a second Lambda for post-processing which is set to be triggered by SQS. This Lambda contains more customized business logic to process Slack event data. For example, it can analyze the received Slack message and send a reply message via Slack API. We can write any code depends on what our business use case requires, including passing on Slack message to OpenAI API for inference and response, which we will go through in another video. This is a high-level overview of the Slack app design. You can follow the detailed steps in the README to set up the stack. Let's now go through what I have set up. This is the Slack app that I have created. Under App Home, Show Tabs, we have toggled on Messages tab. This enables us to send direct message to this Slack app. Under OAuth and Permissions, Bot Token Scopes. This is where we grant permission to what our Slack app is allowed to perform. In this case, we want our Slack app to read and write messages in private, public channels, and direct chat. So we added permissions like channels history, groups history, IM history, chat write. You may refer to Slack reference link and README on what each permission means, and add or remove based on your use cases. After setting the permissions, remember to scroll up and install this app in the Slack workspace. Note that whenever there is change to permissions, you need to click reinstall for new permission to take effect. Under Event Subscription, we have toggled on Enable Event. The request URL is the function URL of our receiver Lambda. We scroll down to Subscribe to Bot Events. This is where we select which events to listen and react to. Here we selected Message Group, Message Channel, Message IM, which corresponds to the event of new message in channels. Again, you may refer to Slack reference and add or remove events based on your use cases. Next, let's take a look at the AWS Lambda and SQS. Here is the code in our receiver Lambda. The logic in receiver Lambda is simple. It checks that the event request is from a known Slack app. Then it will push the event data to the designated SQS. Note that it will ignore events generated by the Slack app itself to avoid any recursive loop in logic. Also, this Lambda needs to handle the initial one-time verification from Slack Event API. This gives Slack assurance that the endpoint is ready to accept events. And here is our message handling Lambda. The logic in message handling Lambda is customizable, depends on business use case. What is included here is a common structure to build custom handlers. This Lambda will decode the Slack event from SQS and pass it to the custom handler function. It is a common use case that we need to post message back to Slack. The repo included a Lambda layer for Slack API Python SDK. The custom handling logic can make use of the Slack client to achieve that. This is a sample handler function. As you can tell, what it does is simply copy what it receives and echo to you. Let's jump into the demo. There are two ways to interact with the Slack app. We can message it directly, or we can add it to a channel. This is the direct message page for the Slack app. Let's type "Good evening, can you hear what I say?" Behind the scene, the message will be passed as Slack event to our receiver Lambda, pushed into SQS, and trigger the handling Lambda. Our sample handler logic will write a reply to the thread in a few seconds. The Slack app has replied us. Let's try a few more times. To create your own custom logic, just write a Python file. import it into Lambda function.py file like the sample handler function. The AWS Lambda, SQS setup are all codified with Terraform AWS provider. Terraform will manage the deployment for you in a few minutes. To summarize, we created a Slack app that subscribed to Slack events. We set up Lambdas and SQS to handle the Slack events. Feel free to visit the GitHub repo below and try it out. Additionally, the repo includes Python Lambda layers for Slack SDK and OpenAI SDK. For those who finds it difficult to build Python Lambda layers, you may refer to the second GitHub link. In the next video, we will demo a custom handler that build OpenAI into your Slack. Hope to see you soon. Thanks watching.